Let's look into the past to get a look at the future. Welcome back to Street Scores. It's your boy Rico giving y'all an off-season edition of Redskins Report. Today's topic, history of the 15th overall pick in NFL draft since 2001. Which was the last time the Redskins had a 15th overall pick in the draft? Let's get it. I wanted to organize this in a way that would be the easiest to understand and process, so rather than just reading off the names in chronological order from most recent to least recent all the way down to 2001, I broke them up in the following categories: good picks, bad picks, and the picks that are hard to call because they were very good for a short stint and had a lot of potential but crashed due to injuries or personal issues. And then I look at the good picks and analyze our chances of getting a good pick at a position of need for the Redskins in 2019, which includes safety, linebacker, edge rusher, quarterback, guard, wide receiver, and cornerback. Now let's talk about the bad picks since 2001. Luckily for us, the only obviously bad picks were tackle Kolton Miller, drafted by the Raiders in 2018, wide receiver Corey Coleman, drafted by the Browns in 2016, defensive back Ty Hill, drafted by the Rams in 2006, wide receiver Michael Clayton, drafted by the Buccaneers in 2004, defensive end Jerome McDougal, drafted by the Eagles in 2003, and yours truly, wide receiver Rod Gardner, drafted by the Washington Redskins in 2001. Now let's talk about each of them briefly. It's hard to count Kolton Miller as a bad pick because he was just a rookie last year, but he had a terrible rookie season and he was considered a huge reach in the draft anyway. I saw him as a third round pick, so it's crazy that he went 15th overall. The first round. I knew he wasn't ready to be sent out there to the Wolves and start immediately. He may improve over time, but I just can't see him ever living up to his 15th overall expectations. And I'm going to go ahead and throw him in there with the bad pick category until otherwise noted. Wide receiver Corey Coleman showed potential in the NFL. He showed some flashes, but he was never able to put it all together. He was drafted by the Browns in 2016, but then was traded to the Bills in 2018, and then he ended up on the Patriots and Giants last year too. He is currently on the Giants under his rookie deal, and who knows whether or not he will be as good as people expected, but as of right now, it's looking dark for him. Bad pick category. Defensive back Ty Hill showed some potential with his speed. He had the fastest 40 time in the 2006 Combine. He had a 4-year career with 4 different teams. He was on 2 teams in 2010 and eventually became an unrestricted free agent the same year and was done with football. No major accomplishments, 5 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, and a fumble recovery, and 1 defensive touchdown. Not worthy of a 15th overall pick though. Then there's wide receiver Michael Clayton, who was drafted by the Buccaneers in 2004. And stayed with them through 2009. His rookie season, he led all NFL rookies and the Buccaneers with 80 receptions for 1,193 yards, and he led the Buccaneers with 7 touchdowns. Then he had to get knee surgery and never really returned back to his rookie season form. He stayed with the Bucs till 2010 when he went to play in the United Football League, and he played for the Giants for 2 seasons and got a Super Bowl ring with them against the Patriots, but he just didn't contribute much, and he never reached his 15th overall pick potential. Defensive end Jerome McDougal was drafted by the Eagles in 2003 and played with them through 2007. He was plagued with injuries his entire career in Philadelphia. He was even out for the majority of the 2005 season after he was shot in a robbery of his own home. Sad story. He left the Eagles in 2008 and played for the Giants for 1 season, and then he was done in the NFL. Wide receiver Rod Gardner was drafted by the Redskins in 2001 and played for us through 2004. He had a couple of good games, but overall wasn't very impactful. He then played with the Panthers, Packers, and Chiefs in a 2-year span, and then he was done with football. Now, there's some people who have complicated careers, where it's hard to say if they were really bad or really good. Linebacker Brian Cushing, defensive tackle Albert Haynesworth, and linebacker Ryan Shazier are complicated examples of the 15th overall pick. Brian Cushing and Ryan Shazier had great and promising careers that were derailed by serious career-ending injuries. And then there's Albert Haynesworth, who was literally the best defensive lineman in the league for 2 seasons, and then went to the Redskins, and then Redskins fans already know what happened with him. We don't even need to dig that pain back up. But these three players are difficult to put in one box because between them, they have a Defensive Rookie of the Year, 4 All-Pro awards, and 5 Pro Bowls. But the longest career between the three of them is 9 years, and many of those years for Brian Cushing and Albert Haynesworth were underperforming years as a result of injuries or lack of motivation. And then there's Ryan Shazier, who may never be able to play football again after he was paralyzed from the waist down for some time. And now on to some of the successful 15th overall picks since 2001. Melvin Gordon was drafted by the Chargers in 2015. Without injuries, he's had a great start to his career. He has a lot of potential and years ahead of him. Even with his injuries, he is already a 2-time Pro Bowler. And I'm definitely predicting more Pro Bowls for him in the future, especially if he can stay healthy. He is also a great fantasy option as he runs well and also doubles as a good passing game contributor. Drafted by the Dolphins in 2011 and now on the same team as Melvin Gordon, the Chargers, Mike Pouncey is a 4-time Pro Bowler. The center is on the last year of his 2-year contract going into 2019, which is weird because he's one of the top centers in the league. I'm surprised the Chargers didn't wrap him up for long term. It's weird for centers to get drafted so early in the draft also, but it's worth it when one turns out this good. But I don't exactly know why the Dolphins didn't hold on to their good pick. He's been a consistent, impactful center in the league. Very dependable. In 2010, the Giants selected defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul. A year later, he was a major contributor in their Super Bowl victory over the New England Patriots. His greatest years may be behind him, especially after losing some of his fingers in a fireworks accident. But when he was great, he was great. He made it to 2 Pro Bowls and also made it the first team All-Pro in 2011. And remember, that was only his 2nd year in the league. Man came out firing as soon as he was drafted. Instant impact player. In 2005, the Kansas City Chiefs drafted linebacker Derrick Johnson. He had a great career. He played for the Chiefs for almost his entire career. The only time he played for another team was when he signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders, and that was his last year of football and it didn't work out. But before then, he was a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time second-team All-Pro, and a 1-time first-team All-Pro. He had 1,169 tackles, 27.5 sacks, 23 forced fumbles, 14 interceptions, and 4 defensive touchdowns. Great career and great value for the middle of the first round. With those highlighted success stories and many other smaller scale successful picks since 2001 that I didn't mention, I say our odds at drafting a franchise player might be favorable, but the important part is whether or not there have been successful stories at positions that we need. The Redskins need help at quarterback, safety, edge rusher, wide receiver, slot corner, inside linebacker, left guard, and maybe, just maybe, might need some running back depth, especially if we don't re-sign Adrian Peterson. We can feel some sense of hope with many past 15th overall picks. Safety-wise, Malik Hooker, who, when not injured, shows the potential to be a top-tier safety in the league. Elite range, like we saw from him at Ohio State in 2016. High IQ and the range to scare quarterbacks from throwing anywhere near his direction. If that isn't one of the Redskins' biggest needs, I don't know what is. And Kenny Vaccaro was also a pretty good safety for some years. Linebacker-wise, Ryan Shazier was exactly what we needed inside linebacker until he got seriously hurt in a freak and rare accident. His combination of IQ and speed are very rare. You can see how the Steelers' defense has declined since his injury. Linebacker Derrick Johnson, who I just previously mentioned, would also be a great pickup for the Redskins in the 2019 draft. Derrick Johnson would have officially solidified our front seven if he were available in this coming draft. Only problem is, linebacker isn't our biggest need, with Reuben Foster looking like he may play for us eventually on a cheap rookie deal, and it looks like sooner rather than later, and with Sean Dion Hamilton showing some potential at the end of this last season, and Mason Foster providing some good depth, with Zach Brown possibly even staying to add some more depth. And then there's edge rusher, which is the second most important position in football, only second to quarterback. And with us only having one impactful edge rusher on contract in Ryan Kerrigan, with Preston Smith being an unrestricted free agent right now, the Redskins are lacking talent in a critical position. So edge rusher wise, defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul was almost unblockable for a few years. And if we could pair him from his prime with Ryan Kerrigan, our pass rush would be dominant. Even though the Redskins technically run a 3-4 defense, they are in nickel most of the time. So an edge rusher on the bigger side that can play defensive end in a 4-3 base or nickel is more advantageous for us. So somebody like Jason Pierre-Paul makes a little bit more sense for us, the way we run our defense, than somebody fast and small like a Harold Landry. Then there's Bruce Irvin, when not suspended, was good at playing a range of positions from defensive end to strong side linebacker in a 4-3 defense base next to Bobby Wagner under Dan Quinn for the Seahawks. Interior offensive lineman wise, Mike Pouncey would solidify our offensive line if they could manage to stay healthy. Pouncey played center in the NFL, but he played right guard for a couple of years in college at Florida. He also played defensive lineman though. If we would draft him and put him at left guard between Trent Williams and Chase Roulier, we would have magic on our hands. But again, I need to emphasize when healthy, because our offensive line has a big injury problem, which makes it hard to project how well they will play. It's easy to predict how well they should play, especially if we could draft a Mike Pouncey. So in conclusion, since 2001, the only positions the Redskins need that have had successful picks are at safety, linebacker, edge rusher, and interior offensive line since 2001. Also, in bad news, the only player to be drafted with the 15th overall pick and make it to the Hall of Fame so far is defensive tackle Alan Page, who was selected by the Minnesota Vikings in 1967. And hold up, that man's face mask looked like it belonged to a bigger helmet. Like, who designed this? Why were they trying to protect his chin more than his eyes? But the fact that he is the only 15th overall pick Hall of Famer is a little discouraging. But you never know. Some of these people I previously discussed may make it to the Hall of Fame, and hopefully for us, the Redskins will draft a future Hall of Famer in this 2019 draft. Whether it be with the 15th overall pick or another pick if we were to trade up or down, which are very possible. And you never know, we can possibly draft the future Hall of Famer with our other picks. Remember, Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Michael Strahan, Rob Gronkowski, Bobby Wagner, Brian Dawkins, and many other greats were drafted in the second round. Frank Gore, Rondé Barber, Jason Witten, Lance Briggs, Jeremiah Trotter, Jason Taylor, Russell Wilson, Terrell Owens, Navarro Bowman, Hines Ward, and many other greats were drafted in the third round. Charles Haley, Geno Atkins, Georgia great, Jared Allen, and many other greats were drafted in the fourth round. But unfortunately for us, we don't have a fourth round this year so far, but we do have some compensatory picks to make up for that. Then there's our Brian Mitchell and Josh Norman, who were drafted in the fifth round along with Tyreek Hill. And then our Mark Rippon, Matt Hasselbeck, Jason Kelsey, Antonio Brown, Terrell Davis, and Tom Brady were drafted in the sixth round. Shannon Sharp and other notable players were drafted in the seventh round. Great players don't just go in the first round. You can get talent anywhere, which leads to my next point. You never know what can happen in the draft. Just simply picking isn't all the work. Developing players is the most important part. Remember, Chase Roulier, our best starting center in a long time, was drafted in the sixth round. Also, Matt Ioannidis, one of the most underrated players in the NFL, was drafted in the fifth round. Probably why he's pretty underrated. And like I said earlier, Josh Norman was drafted in the fifth round and developed by the Carolina Panthers, and then we just picked him up in free agency. This draft thing is very important, but it won't matter at the end of the day if players are not developed and made into better football players on and off the field. But I just told y'all how I feel, but how do y'all feel about the situation? Does this history of the 15th pick make you more confident in where the Redskins are drafting this year? Or does it worry you? Do you feel the Redskins have a good chance of drafting a franchise player with the 15th overall pick? Or do you feel the Redskins will find a way to mess it up? And that's it for this off-season episode of Redskins Report. Thanks for the view. I'm going to keep bringing y'all occasional updates on what the Redskins are doing throughout this entire offseason from December to August. This will include roster moves, draft prospects, scouting reports. I got y'all back. Make sure y'all get in them comments and let me know how y'all feel about this topic. Also, while you're at it, make sure you Dolomite Fake punch that like button, favorite, subscribe. Please subscribe. I'll definitely subscribe back. And most importantly, comment and share. And again, thank y'all for the support. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.